Okay, we're done. Really hate the smell of old brood comb, especially if there are dead bees in there. It's not as bad right now because some of that smell has been steamed out. But I am really happy with the result. Wasn't sure exactly how it was gonna go. I'm gonna take this off. This box is kind of hot. That propolis is like, I don't know if anybody can see that, but the propolis that was actually on this box is coming across like, I don't know, cotton candy. It's kind of interesting. The box is still in really good shape. I glue and screw all my boxes together. So I don't know if that helps it or not. This stuff is really interesting. So when I've done extractions before, the comb that was left, if I boiled it or whatever, and I tried to pull it out and strain it, it was sticky. I mean, the wax would actually stick to you. This is dry. I'm not really sure how to explain how it feels. It feels, I wouldn't say it feels rubbery, maybe a little bit, but it feels like there's really no wax in here. If there is, it's indiscernible from a feel perspective. So all the frames came off clean. I've seen some guys actually go in and they'll scrape the extra propolis off of the sides of the frames to clean them up and make them easier to go in and out. I didn't do that. It's late at night. I'm getting tired. I'm looking through here. In some cases, I am still seeing a little wax. I actually took it out before it was completely done. So like there's a little bit of yellow wax bead there. Here's a little bit in some of these cells. I actually tried to pack it in just to see what would happen if I packed it a little bit. So, yeah, it's looking kind of nasty. I'm gonna grab a box so I can kind of dig through this a little bit. Make sure I don't put any wet foam on my table saw. That's the table we're actually using. So as I pull this stuff out, I'm seeing a little bit of wax, but really not that much. If you would have seen how much wasted wax I had in doing the process that had the crock pot, it was a complete waste of wax. This is almost nothing. It's actually, and I packed it, there's probably like, well, I mean, there was a good 10 to 12 frames in here. And so now as this is cooling, a little bit is sticking to the metal. Probably, at first I was like, I'm gonna leave this overnight, but then I realized this stuff would really stick and right now it's all soft and wet. So there's a couple of spots where I think maybe if I ran it another hour, it would get the rest of the wax out, because it looks like it's almost done. All the wax is near at the bottom, just where it's touching the metal. This ran, the process started, I started seeing wax at the 15-minute mark, and I let this go for a couple of, maybe an hour or two. I really wasn't paying attention. So I went out there to check on it, and it was actually out of water. And so it's got like an auto shut off. So I had to put water in it to get the stuff that was actually in the stream to get that moving. And then, all right, most of this is actually dead bee bodies, which is kind of gross. It was a situation where they starved to death. I was too busy to feed them. All right, so nice big nasty box of black comb. Not sure what to do with that. I'll probably throw it at the bottom of some of my swarm traps, but more than likely I'll throw it away. All right, this is the bee screen. So again, not very much stuff here. It looks like it all kind of came through. I did a couple of lessons learned. I did see some wax escaping because the wire itself provides a little bit of a gap since it's not actually sealed. So I think maybe a better option would be to take this wire, come about halfway in, and then maybe use a thin foam around the wire, and that would actually keep more of the steam inside. Now we're down to the muslin or cheesecloth. So I think what was happening is, if you see here, there's still some wax on here, but not a ton. I think it was actually kind of coming through, and it was dripping right when I pulled it off. I just stopped it maybe a little too early. And now we're at the last, and you're seeing, I mean, this worked really well. There's very little wax. I think some leaked down the sides a little bit. There might be some underneath in there. There's a little bit here at the front. But other than that, super happy. This worked extremely well. We probably got in the 90% of the wax that was available to be extracted actually came out. So I feel like this was definitely worth it. Yeah, it does take a little longer with it was a Wagner, I think, unit. It does seem like it does take a little bit longer with that, but I mean, you turn it on and then you go do something else. I actually put together 20 frames and did some other stuff. This is the result. We got 2 of these pans. I just moved it over because I wanted to kind of play with this. I rinsed it off, but I didn't do anything else. So if you look, I'm gonna pop this out and see what it looks like. Most of the time when you do a wax extraction of some sort, you're left with this really nasty black-sided at the bottom. And we look there and there's almost none. So that's actually the bottom, and this is the top. And the bottom smells a little funky. The top smells pretty clean. Now I'm gonna contrast that with this same kind of mix of brewed and clean wax. This was the leftover when I do the process in the crock pot. I left this wax sitting on top, and so you see it's like this dark brown, and then there's just tons of this crap on the back side, and you have to scrape that before you filter it. So here's the question: why is it that, I mean, you saw how clean this is the filter, this is the cheesecloth, all right? You can see there's some dirt on here, but it's not that bad. In fact, if I ran this thing and then I rinsed it off, I think it would completely come clean. So my question is, why is that and then this super clean wax here, what's the difference between that and this brown nasty wax and this black stuff that I gotta scrape off? And in this process, I'm gonna lose a decent amount of this wax because I'm scraping it off with this junk. I think what's happening is that when you do a boil method, you have to stir, a lot of times you stir that comb up or you mash it down to get it in there. And I think when we do that, we're actually particulating all of the stuff that's embedded within the comb. So by not actually disturbing the comb and actually just steam extracting the wax right out of the comb, whatever dirt, junk that makes up this, and I don't know what it is, and in fact, these are the ones I just did might have been actually dirtier than the ones I did in the crock pot. So what I think is happening is that in this process, all of the dirt that you normally see in one of these types of extraction processes stays in that comb that I showed you in the black box. It just sticks and stays together, and maybe it's in the bottom of those cells. By doing a steam extraction and not breaking up that comb at all, you end up with not only 90% or more of the wax, but you end up with this really clean product. You'd only get that dark brown there, and I'm wondering, even if I run this through, I do think that this was cooked a little bit. So maybe part of the darkness is because it was at a higher heat because it went for such a long time. Whereas when you do a steam extraction, as soon as the wax reaches a melting point, it goes through and then it cools again. So you're not over tempering the wax. Whereas in a boiling method, it may stay in there for a really long time. And then when you go to cool it down, it still stays at a really high temp. In the steam extraction, you raise it at a high temp, but it's only long enough for it to fall through the bottom, and then it cools almost immediately once it gets in the tray. So between the two methods, I am 100 times in the camp of steam extraction. It's cleaner, you get a better product, it doesn't smell burnt, it's easier, it's cleaner for me. I didn't actually burn my hands at all. I didn't get any wax on me. So I am a huge fan. Hopefully this has been a help for you guys. And if you want to see me do more videos or teaching videos, I do a lot of teaching in our club. Let me know. Let me know if there's anything in particular you want me to cover.